you carry a firearm and discharge your weapon in self-defense, you could face hundreds of thousands of dollars in legal fees and expenses. So carry the protection of CCW Safe, Self-Defense Legal Services membership. Upfront payment of all criminal and civil defense costs with no out-of-pocket for members. Unlimited defense budgets, unmatched legal expertise. Carry the same level of support police officers have. Carry CCW Safe, the highest caliber.
And we're back. Sorry about the little delay there. It looks like Rumble is having issues. It wouldn't allow us to connect to the live stream. So I removed it, went to create a new one, and got a 404 on Rumble. So it looks like the front end of Rumble is up. Looks like the back end of Rumble for the studio and live streams is currently down. And I believe somebody mentioned that they've been having some DDoS attacks. Perhaps they distributed denial of service attacks. If so, hopefully they get that fixed soon, but it doesn't look like we will be broadcasting to Rumble tonight. So we'll be on every other platform, both of our YouTube channels, Facebook, LinkedIn, and X as well. So because I was troubleshooting that, I don't have all of my stuff pulled up right away. So just bear with me for a few seconds here. Let me get the first couple items pulled up so that we can get going. Obviously, the story of the day is Daniel Penny being declared innocent, and it's good to see chalk one up for the good guys. I made a comment to somebody else. We need to do Derek Chauvin again, a redo on Derek Chauvin. It's funny, there was more evidence released recently on Chauvin from medical examiner showing that it was clearly two different types of fentanyl. There's 1,400 different analogs of fentanyl. We have signatures on approximately 200 of them. Many of them are much worse than just the base analog. And he had enough in him to kill a horse, basically, if not then some. So, all right. Again, apologies for the rough start. Hopefully Rumble gets back online soon, but we can't start a stream like this on other platforms and then add Rumble partway through. So again, we won't be on Rumble tonight, but we will be back there hopefully tomorrow night when they get their stuff fixed. So with regards to Daniel Penny, let me bring up the first article here from the New York Post. And for all of you who've been following this, there were some shenanigans last week. Basically what happened is the jury came back deadlocked on the charge of manslaughter, and Alvin Bragg, the clown who, has been chasing Donald Trump with completely bullshit charges, asked the judge to discard the charge of manslaughter and let's just go for the second lower charge. That's never happened before. I had the opportunity to speak to quite a few people in law enforcement over the weekend who were just astonished, because what the judge was essentially setting a precedent for is that a DA could overcharge somebody, and if they don't get the top charge, they could always back off to the next one. Now, that's not unusual for that to unfold. It's unusual for that to unfold after the jury's been asked to deliberate on it. And thankfully, the jury came back with the right decision today. There's a lot of hyperbole around this case, just like there was with George Floyd. BLM, of course, is, inciting riots in New York. I'll play a little bit of this video here. I'm not going to put the volume up just so that it doesn't drown me out. But there's repeated calls today from leaders of Black Lives Matter to riot in the streets for violence, all those sort of things. And, they're victims of misinformation. They've been fed a narrative that they want to believe. And that narrative is, I've seen some people say, well, the court just justified white people murdering black people, and didn't do that whatsoever. So I'll cover this in more detail as we go through this episode. However, Jordan Neely had 42 convictions, criminal convictions, number one. Number two, he was paranoid schizophrenia, or had paranoid schizophrenia. Number three, he was threatening passengers on the subway, saying things like, I'll kill you and I don't care. And it scared the crap out of people. And Daniel Penny was a hero. He stopped any further violence, number one. Number two, there were a bunch of people on that subway who before it went to court, then when it went to court, that thanked Daniel Penny for essentially saving them from this lunatic. And of course, there's going to be civil lawsuits over this. Daniel Penny's been crushed financially already. Now the father's come out of nowhere. He didn't see his son. His son was homeless. They had reportedly they didn't have a relationship. And now he misses his son. And they're going to launch this civil action. But at the end of the day, part of the decision was based on the ME's report that so there's approximately 5 minutes that, transpired during this whole incident. And Daniel Penny holds him, and he was basing the tightness of his chokehold based on the resistance. So this guy was a lunatic. And I can tell you, so I worked as a doorman for many years. I didn't do it because I needed the money. I did it because I was young, and it's a great place to meet women when you work as a doorman, and because you're not a threat, you're not there drinking. And as a result of that, gotten many, many fights over the years. And fighting somebody who is messed up on drugs or, cuckoo like Charlie Manson, you can literally pound them into the ground and they will still keep coming at you. And that was the case with Jordan Neely here. This guy was a psychotic, a known psychotic, should have been in a mental institution. And again, had 42 convictions and has, assaulted other people. This is not a race thing. This is not black versus white. But I'll tell you what, the reason that I chose the thumbnail for tonight was clearly there's a shift happening in our country. And, that started with the election of Donald Trump in a landslide. He won the popular vote. He won the Electoral College. And he's got a mandate across the board. And part of that mandate was because of the lawfare that's been waged against him. And part of that lawfare was waged by Alvin Bragg. And part of this decision today is people recognizing that these false narratives can't be allowed to stand. And when you look at the statistics, so here's the problem is you will see people from BLM saying, that white cops and white people in general are killing young black men at an astronomical rate. And the facts just don't bear that out. And I believe part of the reason that you had major metropolitan areas not report into the FBI.gov for their crime stats was to shape this narrative. There's also untold instances of people who are not Caucasian being booked and charged and convicted as Caucasians when they're black, Mexican, whatever the case may be, in an attempt to skew the numbers. But the fact of the matter is that number one, white cops are not killing blacks disproportionately. Number two, the most violence faced by blacks is from other blacks killing them. And we're way down the line as far as just white people in general. But that doesn't suit their narrative. And, Derek Chauvin's paying a heavy price for that. Not only was he convicted, put in jail, he was stabbed like 21 times. Just awful. Hopefully something happens to correct that wrong. But now that I've kind of laid the groundwork for this episode, what I'm going to do is I'm going to play Daniel Penny, his account. It's a 3-minute video. I want to play the whole video simply based on the fact that this really sets the stage for everything else that we're going to cover in chapter 1 tonight.
East Village in Manhattan. So I take the subway multiple times a day. In this instance, I was coming from school. I got out of class around 2:15. And I took I was at J Street Metro Tech, took the Uptown F train. At 2nd Avenue, a man came on, stumbled on. He appeared to be on drugs. The doors closed, and he ripped his jacket off and threw it at the people sitting down to my left. I was listening to music at the time, and he was yelling, so I took my headphones out to hear what he was yelling. And the 3 main threats that he repeated over and over was, "I'm going to kill you. I'm prepared to go to jail for life, and I'm willing to die." This was a scary situation. And Mr. Neely came on. He was threatening. I'm 6'2", and he was taller than me. So it was, and there's a common misconception that Marines don't get scared. We're actually taught one of our core values is courage. And courage is not the absence of fear, but how you handle fear. And, I was scared for myself, but I looked around, I saw women and children. He was yelling in their faces, saying, saying these threats, I couldn't just sit still. Some people say that I was holding on to Mr. Neely for 15 minutes. This is not true. I mean, between stops is only a couple minutes. So the whole interaction lasted less than 5 minutes. Some people say I was trying to choke him to death, which is also not true. I was trying to restrain him. You can see in the video, there's a clear rise and fall of his chest, indicating that he's breathing. I'm trying to restrain him from him being able to carry out the threats. And then some people say that this is about race, which is absolutely ridiculous. I didn't see a black man threatening passengers. I saw a man threatening passengers, a lot of whom were people of color. A man who helped restrain Mr. Neely was a person of color. And then a few days after the incident, I read in the papers that a woman of color came out and called me a hero. What I don't believe that I'm a hero, but she was one of those people that I was trying to protect. We were all scared. Mr. Neely was yelling in these passengers' faces, and they looked terrified. The reason why there was no video at the start of the altercation was because people were too afraid getting away from him, and the videos didn't start until they saw that situation was under control. I knew I had to act, and I acted in a way that would protect the other passengers, protect myself, and protect Mr. Neely. I used this hold to restrain him, and I did this by leaving my hand on top of his head to control his body. You can see in the video, there's a clear rise and fall of his chest, indicating that he was still breathing. And I'm calibrating my grip based on the force that he's exerting. And I was trying to keep him on the ground until the police came. I was praying that the police would come and take this situation over. I didn't want to be put in that situation, but I couldn't just sit still and let him carry out these threats.
All righty. So that gives it to you directly from the horse's mouth. And it's worth noting that he mentioned he didn't see a black guy, that was threatening to hurt people. He just saw a threat, and he did the right thing. Too many times these days, we see videos of these things unfolding where nobody's helping. And my personal opinion is the person behind the phone standing there taking a video is just as guilty as the person who's committing the assault. And we saw during the 2020 riots, a number of people grievously injured while people just sat there and took videos of them. And that's a cowardly thing to do. And I'm sure Daniel Penny's well aware before this incident of how litigious our society has become. And yet he still stepped in and did the right thing. So, there's a lot to be thankful for as far as him being found innocent. Again, I feel bad for him financially. It's going to be a pretty rough ride with this civil trial. But here is a short clip from Fox News, literally seconds after he was declared innocent.
Breaking news. The jury has reached a unanimous verdict in the case of Daniel Penny. He's been found not guilty on the charge of criminally negligent homicide. Now, remember what was at stake here. The jury could not agree on manslaughter. They failed to agree twice. The judge gave them another bite at the apple on this lesser charge, negligent. They now say not guilty.
So again, I just want to make sure that I'm clear with everybody on this. It is very unusual to get to the point where a jury has heard arguments in favor of more than one charge, and for the jury to come back and say that they were hung. The normal protocol would be that charge would be dismissed or the whole case would be dismissed. But telling the jurors that they were just going to remove the first charge, but y'all go back and consider this lesser charge. If I was going to bet on that, after that happened on Friday and through to this morning, I would have said that they're probably going to convict on the lesser charge, because it's almost as if the judge was encouraging that type of decision. So like I said, I'm thankful for Daniel Penny that he got the right decision. Not thankful for the fact that the poor guy's financially crushed, and on top of which there were people in the courtroom when the decision was announced that said things like it's a small world and we're coming for you, and making threats to essentially kill him. And that's just unbelievable. So I'm not going to read through this whole article. I better hide that, or YouTube, of course, will kill us for having Breitbart on screen. If you go to patreon.com/survival dispatch, sign up for a free membership, you can download all of our briefs for all of our episodes. It has all the links in it that we cover. If we run out of time and there are links left, you can catch them that way. I typically don't play the entire video if it's long, because nobody wants to sit there and watch videos on our video on other videos. But if you go get yourself the brief, it's like a curated daily newspaper that will keep you up to speed. So this short video was taken right after they left the court at a local bar, and clearly you can see by the look on his face he's smiling. His defense attorneys are with him here as well.
How you feeling?
Great.
Yeah.
He's feeling good. He's feeling good. He's feeling good.
What's up?
We're
Come together. How's it going? How's it feel?
Feels great. He's finally got the justice he's deserved.
Did you think it was going to happen?
Sorry? No, we think that this should have happened probably on day one, but the point thing is it happened. So we can't control the timing of it, but we can certainly savor the outcome.
And why do you think it was not guilty?
That's
Instead
him.
of-
That's that guy.
Well, he's not guilty on a few different reasons. Because his actions were justified. He was trying to help people on that train, and he did. And number two, he's not responsible for the death because the death was caused by a lot of other factors that we tried to present with a lot of clarity, such as the K2 abuse and the sickling crisis, and cardiac issues, not to mention the paranoid schizophrenia, which only added to that impact. So I'm just glad that the jury was able to truly evaluate that as a potential cause of death, and that Danny was justified in the actions that he took.
So there you have it. And for some reason, we've lost video here. Just bear with me. There we go. Sorry about that. So anyway, obviously very happy, the entire defense team. So let's go have a look at the other side. This is a 3-minute video. I won't play the whole video, but this will give you an idea of what was going on outside the courthouse.
Wait, Joe, wait. All right, hold on. Get
So there's no real need to play the rest of that video. Suffice it to say that there were some very upset people. And, the fact of the matter is that people don't know what they don't know. So people who consume mainstream media and consume nothing but nonstop propaganda, many of them are exhausted by the volume of news. We've seen lots of reports on that lately, and they just take it at verbatim. It doesn't trip their bullshit meter, and they don't go looking for anything else as far as the truth is concerned. So I honestly believe that a bunch of those people that were just shown in that video and other videos, they legitimately feel that Daniel Penny killed him. They legitimately feel that Derek Chauvin killed George Floyd. And we know that that's not the case, period. So it speaks to the divisions in our country. And I wonder now if we're going to see, BLM riots, peaceful protests like we had a few years back. And if that's going to become, a mark on Donald Trump's return to the White House. But I've got another video here. It's only 52 seconds long. Jordan Neely's father.
I just want to say, I miss my son. My son didn't have to go through this. I didn't have to go through this either. It hurts. Really, really hurts. What are we going to do, people? What's going to happen to us now? I had enough of this. System is rigged. Come on, people. Let's do something about this.
Let's do something about it. Too often, we have Eric Garner's mother here. There's too often this is happening where we.
So you could probably make an argument that he's right. Too often this is happening. It shouldn't happen at all, but it does happen. But it's not happening at the volume that they like to portray, that they want to portray. It's a false narrative. And I mean, each to their own, but perception's reality. I didn't find Jordan Neely's father particularly genuine and believable. Maybe it's just because he lost his son. I don't know. He didn't deliver the message with any, I don't know, oomph, so to speak. And I think that the continuing calls for, statements, incendiary comments, the system is rigged. Well, the system's not rigged in these cases at all. You probably could argue it is rigged, and it's rigged against the white police officers. So I would remind you all that there was a pretty high profile case. So there was a guy in Seattle. 3 cops were charged with his murder. It happened before George Floyd, just before George Floyd. And the Soros-backed DA there was watching to see what unfolded in the George Floyd case. And when it went the way that it did, he ended up putting murder charges on the 3 cops. And the guy's name was Manny something. It's escaping me right this minute, but I'm sure one of y'all will find it here quickly. So our good friend, Dr. Jen, was an expert witness there. And at any point in time, she has 75 to 100 cases on her docket to testify as an expert witness. So veteran of 2 branches of the military, practicing MD, emergency room doctor, licensed attorney, former U.S. Marshal. I mean, her resume is pretty amazing. And her and her husband work in Tacoma for a 2-week stretch in the hospital. Then they fly home to Vegas for 2 weeks. Then they go back to Tacoma. And she's so smart. If y'all haven't heard this story on Survival Dispatch News, that she rented a vehicle to drive to and from the courthouse when she was testifying on behalf of the 3 officers. And she did it because she was concerned that the bad guys were going to try and follow her and find out where she lives. And she was right. And they did. And she had to use evasive measures, to drop them. Pretty smart on her part. Long story short is the 3 officers were found innocent. I spoke to Jen shortly after that, and she said it was the most important case of her life because it was a total setup on the part of the Soros DA going after these 3 cops. And if anything's rigged, it's rigged against the cops, not for the cops. And again, perception's reality. So if people believe that cops are killing, young black men, at these high numbers, they've actually done many interviews on this. There's a lot of interviews out there where a reporter will ask a black person, so, how many black men do you think were killed by cops over the course of the past year? And they'll say numbers that are in the thousands. And the numbers that I've seen are typically, again, you could argue that one's too many, but between 10 and 20 a year, it seems to be the average. So the other part to that in the FBI crime statistics, statistics can't be racist. They're just numbers. The statistics are what the statistics are. Well, I don't know what the current number is because there's been this back and forth of these, Democrat-run cities not reporting their stats into FBI.gov. But in a directionally correct sense, black males 18 to 30 commit something like 60+% of all violent crimes in the country. So that would include all homicides, as well as rapes and those sorts of crimes. So is that because the system's systemic or has systemic racism? I don't believe so. I believe that there has to be some ownership on the part of the black community. And I do business with a number of people who are black. This is a crazy problem that we're facing. And we can thank Obama, the chief divider, in charge. We didn't have these problems prior to him. I think back to the 1980s. Everybody loved Mr. T. We all loved Eddie Murphy. and we love the Rocky movies and Apollo Creed, and we didn't have these type of racial tensions. Now we did earlier, you know, in the early 70s and in the 60s and 50s, but the 80s and 90s were a pretty good time to grow up, where we didn't have this crap until Obama came along. And, you know, he's fanned the flames. Pardon me. He's fanned the flames of this divisiveness, this race war, and it's convinced a whole bunch of people of these false narratives. And I don't know how we overcome that other than trying to get the truth out as much as we can and trying to dispel their myths. But again, the BLM, you know, if you look at the upper echelons of the BLM people, they take the money out, they buy, you know, millions of dollars worth of homes, and the whole thing's they're preying on people's feelings and lack of knowledge. So speaking of which, here's another person from BLM calling for violence.
These wonderful white people, I hope they celebrate their Christmas while the Neely family is praying and asking God for comfort. God damn them and goddamn America.
So there's a longer version of that, and there's videos before the verdict was announced. And again, these people are inciting violence, and by inciting violence, they generate donations. By generating donations, they generate the money to go live a lavish lifestyle. And the Black people who do the research and do become aware of this stuff pretty quickly put two and two together that they're being used. So actually this one here, 45 seconds long, this is another BLM leader, and he absolutely threatens violence. He's calling for Black vigilantes to get active.
Just like everybody else has vigilantes, we need some Black vigilantes.
That's right.
People want to jump up and choke us and kill us for being loud. How about we do the same when they attempt to oppress us?
Right.
I'm tired. I know you're looking for us to be like, oh, go and march. No. This weekend, I want you to hold a community event everywhere from the Bronx to Houston to Seattle to Florida. Black people, whole community event, and talk about what you need. It's like every.
So I'm not sure if y'all are familiar with that guy, but he's done the majority of the speaking, excuse me, outside on the courthouse steps throughout this trial. And every single speech that I've seen him give, he's calling for violence and saying that, you know, the system's rigged and blah, blah, blah. Here's a picture that I found on patriots.win, by the way. And I don't know if this is photoshopped or not, intended to be a joke or not. I think it's Photoshop, but this could be you. Quit, you know, fucking around on the New York City subway, or, you know, you'll find out. I don't know that that's particularly humorous, but, and I don't know if this has actually really been posted or not, but it's one of the things that caught my eye. And the next one here, just a simple picture. This is Penny and his girlfriend, and you can see the look of relief on both of their faces after this nightmare, at least this stage of the nightmare, drew to a close today. So that's it for chapter 1. And I'm going to play a quick message here from our sponsor, Sawyer Products, and I'll be right back.
The Sawyer Mini is the most versatile personal filtration system available. It's a perfect solution for backpacking, hiking, hunting, fishing, scouting, international travel, and emergency preparedness. At a mere 2 ounces, the Mini fits in the palm of your hand and can filter up to 100,000 gallons of water from any freshwater lake, river, or stream. The Sawyer Mini has a 0.1 micron absolute pore size. It was tested to 10 million parts of bacteria and 1 million parts of protozoa without a single breakthrough. This is the highest level filters can be tested to, so we're confident these are the highest rates of filtration available.
All right, so this trial actually set up chapter 2 as well. Pardon me. And I've been meaning to play this video for a little while, but I kind of wanted to wait for the right time. So this is a story being told by a former FBI agent with regards to Barack Obama coming on the scene, and it's pretty interesting.
2008, something unbelievable happened for us in the FBI. We were getting lots of rumors about this high-level asset that worked for several intelligence agencies at the same time. He worked for the Saudi intelligence service. He worked for the CIA, and he was being developed as a political asset in Chicago, Illinois. He was not even a United States citizen, but it was said that he was a student visa and that he was a national from another country. In 2008, everyone in the intelligence structure found out who he was. It was this individual whose name I don't like to say, who became president in 2008 of the United States.
And I will faithfully execute
the office of President of the United States.
The office of President of the United States.
One of his code names was Renegade. His real name was Barry Sortoro, but he adopted a different name for his political career. When they ran him for president, the cabal, basically, this was the culmination of so many of their plans for so many years. His mission was to destroy the United States from within, one institution at a time. One of the things he did, of course, was he defunded our military. He brought down the resources that they got. But then he ordered our military in many, many instances and in various theaters to attack our allies and to defend and supply and help our enemies. That's exactly how he created ISIS. He would say publicly that the military were going to bomb our enemies, but then he would have the military actually bomb enemies of ISIS, our allies. He gave ISIS funding and equipment by basically ordering our military to take equipment into a certain theater and then abandon it. And the commanders would say, that's ridiculous. We'd just be handing that stuff over to ISIS. And the president's office would say, don't question orders, just follow your orders. And that.
All right. So pretty interesting account on that agent's behalf. There's actually, we've got another video right below it that I'll play in just a second that has some comments from Barack Obama during his tenure. But suffice it to say, we've covered a fair bit of this before with Patrick Byrne. Patrick Byrne was the CEO of Overstock.com. He was a Senate Intelligence Committee asset for many years. And he's told the stories many times. You can look up Operation Snow Globe. So what Operation Snow Globe was, just quick recap, is that Obama had a 24-year plan to basically destroy America. And tomorrow night's episode of Survival Dispatch News, we're going to be discussing the top 10 ways to destroy America. And we will stitch that together and show you that whether it was through Obama's 2 terms or his 3rd shadow term here with this currently installed administration, he executed on all 10 of them, at least got the ball rolling. So Operation Snow Globe was Patrick Byrne went back to his handlers and said that the government of Turkey had bribed Hillary Clinton with $20 million. And he presented the evidence that he had. John Brennan came back to him, and Patrick Byrne will tell you that as far as the chain of command is concerned, Barack Obama basically reports to John Brennan, who in turn reports into the Rothschilds and that sort of level of people. Anyway, they gave Patrick $18 million to set up another bribe on Hillary, and they executed that bribe. And then they went to her and said, listen, we have evidence that you took a $20 million bribe from the Turkish, an $18 million bribe from this other one. Here's the deal. You're going to be the president for 8 years. We're going to put a Bunsen burner under your ass. And if you're a good girl, we'll keep the flame low. And if you're a bad girl, we'll turn the flame up. And when you're done, Michelle's going to be, or Michael, whatever you want to call him, is going to be serving an 8-year term after that. And Obama felt like that 24-year run. John Brennan felt like that 24-year run would be more than enough to destroy America. And clearly that's the case after the shit show that we've seen over the past 4 years, plus everything we saw in his first, couple of tenures. So long story short, I have a feeling we're going to have some really good evidence soon showing that Barack Obama was not born in the United States and therefore was not eligible to be the president. What comes out of that, I don't know. And I'm not going to predict that, but I'm going to predict that that evidence will be forthcoming. So let's have a listen to this second video from the same post and hear directly from Barry himself.
Trump will not be president. Highly critical, biased text messages between senior FBI officials Peter Strzok and Lisa Page.
There will be no question about the outcome of this election.
And she got ahead of herself. This utterly stunned this campaign.
Head home. You should get some sleep. We'll have more to say tomorrow.
Our constitutional democracy enshrines the peaceful transfer of power.
The peaceful transition of power is one of the hallmarks of our democracy. We want to do everything we can to help you succeed, because if you succeed, then the country succeeds. These declassified documents that were just released.
Officials in the Obama administration were asking for the identities to be unmasked of Americans.
Unmasking of aides and staffers of the incoming president.
The basic charge, political spying.
To disrupt the peaceful transfer of power.
Unmasking of American citizens. It could be a real problem.
Why is it that the unmasking of Flynn somehow ended up in the pages of the Washington Post?
I know nothing about those moves to investigate Michael Flynn.
The vice president said that yesterday. And then the last name on this list is Joe Biden.
The Obama administration was bitter. They wanted to do everything they could to undermine the incoming Trump administration.
Really designed to sabotage and really upend the new administration.
An outgoing president and a vice president and a Washington Post columnist and the FBI setting up an incoming administration. Wow, that's a real conspiracy, and nobody wants to talk about it.
Okay, so I've tried to catch up on some of the comments on the side here, and I see, we've got our people in the audience, for lack of a better term. Anyway, suffice it to say that Obama has done a very good job of trying to destroy America and setting us down this path of socialism, Marxism, and communism. And I won't harp on any more tonight, but tomorrow night, when we cover the top 10 ways to destroy America, I can assure you we will have more coverage on Barack Obama. Actually, I lied. I have one more video here, and it's several minutes long. I'm not going to play the whole thing. Go to patreon.com/survival dispatch. Sign up for free. You can download the brief there.
Abundantly clear now that the Democrats are signaling that something is coming, that they are going to take a stand and not just sit by and watch things happen.
This is in regards to Obama's speech this past weekend, which we played last night on Survival Dispatch News, where one of the playbooks or items in the playbook for communism and Marxism is to accuse the other side of everything that you're doing. So in that speech on this weekend that he gave this weekend, he accused Donald Trump of he was going to weaponize the DOJ against his enemies and all of the dirty things that Obama and his minions, John Brennan and his minions, have done to Donald Trump. He accused Trump of, even though they're guilty of it themselves.
Without doing something. Yesterday, former President Barack Obama gave a speech at the Obama Foundation Democracy Forum. Listen to this part that caught my attention. Here it is.
What happens when the other side has repeatedly and abundantly made clear they are not interested in playing by the rules? It's a problem. And when that happens, we fight for what we believe in. There are going to be times, potentially, when one side tries to stack the deck and lock in a permanent grip on power, either by actively suppressing votes or politicizing the armed forces or using the judiciary, the criminal justice system to go after opponents. And in those circumstances, pluralism does not call for us to just stand back and say, well, I'm not sure. That's okay. In those circumstances, a line has been crossed, and we have to stand firm and speak out and organize and mobilize as forcefully as we can. But even in those circumstances, it's important to look for allies in unlikely places. And too often we assume that people on the other side have monolithic views, when in reality some of them may share our beliefs in sticking to the rules, observing norms. And that's why when it's appropriate, there is nothing wrong with reinforcing and lifting up elected officials or voters, your neighbors, your friends, who you may not disagree with anything, but they do agree with you on that. Because they may be able to exert influence on people they've got relationships with within the other party.
Okay, that's about all I can listen to that. He's always been annoying, but he seems to be getting more annoying with time. And somebody, I can't remember, might have been Golf and Guns that went by pretty quickly, but he said, there it is, projection. Good call, my friend. That's exactly right on the money. And here's a good comment. So this is my buddy Gerald from this company here, U.S. Arms Company. The most talented armorer I have ever crossed paths with, by the way. He's a wizard, especially when it comes to tuning ARs. But that's exactly what it is. Obama's signaling this. If nothing else, all of these clowns on the other side, they love to brag about what they're fixing to do, and then they go do it. You know, all you got to do is go read the WEF's website, see what they have planned for their agenda for the following year. They follow through on it all. There's no excuse not to be prepared for it and to be surprised by the things that they do. Because I think they honestly, I think they think we're all so stupid that we can't connect the dots. And, you know, that's just not the case. So I'm going to move on from there. Again, we'll get back on the Obama bandwagon tomorrow night. But for the rest of the second chapter, and by the way, for those of you who are new to Survival Dispatch News, we air 7 days a week at 7 p.m. Eastern. The first chapter is always whatever is on the thumbnail and the title of the video. The second chapter, which we're into right now, is news headlines. And the third chapter, try to find some zany stuff, humorous, crazy stuff to let people leave with a smile on their face. So we're about halfway through chapter 2 here. So this video is very short, 15 seconds. It's from this weekend, Trump's visit to France. We had some pretty funny stuff last night with the handshake felt around the world where Donald Trump crushed Macron's hand, not once, not twice, but 3 times. So basically, Trump said to Macron that we're going to leave NATO, meaning Americans. We're going to pull out of NATO if these guys don't start paying their bills. And France and Germany have been warned in the past that they have to commit X% of their GDP towards NATO, and they haven't been living up to it. We end up footing the bill. And this is what I love them or hate them right here. Trump made this deal in less than 30 minutes. I mean, the guy is the ultimate deal maker. You know, how many days or minutes did it take for the Canadians and the Mexicans to react to Donald Trump saying, yeah, if you keep sending drugs and illegals into our country, 25% tariff on everything that you send to America, which would crush both of those economies. It's a leverage. It's a tool of leverage. It wasn't something that Donald Trump is empirically saying he's going to do. He's just holding it over their head. So here in 30 minutes, strikes a deal with France.
We had a good time together, and we had a lot of success, really great success working together on defense and offense too. And it certainly seems like the world is going a little crazy right now.
Yeah, that's an understatement. We spoke at length last night with regards to Syria and what's going on there. So just to reiterate for people who didn't catch it, what just happened in Syria was the Obama Biden administration essentially taking out one of their enemies and starting a process all over again where you've got ties to Al-Qaeda, ties to ISIS, of course, which came out of Al-Qaeda, now in charge, much like the Taliban, were in charge of Afghanistan after the Russians left. And we gave the Taliban all kinds of money and aid and assistance, and they turned around and used it against us. I'm going to predict right now that the same thing is going to happen in Syria, and that we're going to see a hotbed of terrorist activity there. But what happened there over the weekend was a color revolution enacted by the CIA on behalf of Obama and Brennan and the rest of the NWO cabal. And it plays into their forever wars because the northeast portion of Syria borders on Russia. So it puts another fly in the ointment as far as war is concerned with Russia. And we know that the military industrial complex is dying to have, World War III breakout. They used to say years ago that if your economy is not doing well and whatever measures you put in place haven't pulled your, country's economy out of a recession or depression, start a war, crank up your industrial capacity. Poof, everybody's got a job. Everybody's making money. So the next one up here is everybody's favorite senator from South Carolina, Lindsey Graham. And Senator Lindsey Graham demands that the U.S. intervene in Syria by staging a ground incursion. Now, I see there's been a community note added on here since we put it in a brief this morning. This is long overdue. And that may be the case, but he is one of many people in D.C. who are on a very short leash from the military industrial complex. Whether this is out of date or not, this is typical Lindsey Graham. And this is the stuff, this is the swamp in action right here that we need to get rid of. So next one up, Biden claims credit for toppling Assad. And you know what? They should take credit for doing it. They've destabilized another nation. I'm looking at Syria as a combination of what we did in Afghanistan and what we did in Libya. And it won't be long before their number one export is terrorists committing terrorist acts against the West. It's a very unsophisticated economy. And we're back to this nation building stuff, which has been a disaster for how many decades now. So I'll move on from there. So this is interesting. I'd actually forgotten about this until I stumbled across this today. So on November 7th, 1983, let me blow this up. November 7th, 1983, a group of Democrats exploded a bomb in the United States Capitol building. The explosion tore through the second floor of the Capitol's North Wing. 3 Democrats were convicted and sentenced to lengthy prison terms for conspiracy against the United States. The last day Democratic Party President Bill Clinton was in office, he commuted their sentences and released them. On January 6, 2021, unarmed people took selfies in the Capitol building, and Democrats now call that an insurrection. So one of the highlights from this weekend was an interview that Donald Trump did. I can't remember the girl's name. She's horrible. She got crazy eyes. I know I have a picture of that coming up. Anyway, he said, she asked how soon, she asked if he was going to pardon the J6ers, and he said yes. And he said fast. And she said, well, how fast? The first 100 days? And he said, no, the first day. So the vast majority of people who've been incarcerated for January 6th did nothing wrong. There was no violence committed on their part. I told the story again last night of Colton Maccabee. I won't tell the story again other than suffice it to say that this is a deputy from Kentucky who saved a cop who had fallen down, tried to save a lady who had a heart attack. The feds laid 6 federal charges of assault on him, 4 for the officer, 2 for the lady. Tons of video showing the cops thanking him for saving his life. Paramedics saying he did everything. Judge wouldn't allow it into evidence. He's been in jail since August 2021. He's been in 21 different penal institutions. He wasn't allowed to talk to his wife for the first month. Didn't see her for the first year. It is an absolute disgusting abuse of power. And honestly, I hope when he gets out, he sues the government and wins many, many millions of dollars. All right, moving along here. We have 3 more tabs to share for chapter number 2 tonight. Lawsuit claims Jay-Z raped 13-year-old girl with Diddy. Jay-Z denies allegations as a blackmail attempt. So one of the things that I'm looking forward to in this upcoming Trump administration is the names. We deserve to know the names on the Epstein list, the Diddy list, and any other atrocity that's related to child sex trafficking, abuse, rape, all those sort of things. Absolutely disgusting. And a lot of people, I believe, are going to be implicated. A lot of people are guilty. I think all of Hollywood, for example, is guilty. I came to a conclusion a few years ago that every time you see a public personality going hard at Donald Trump, it's because the establishment says, look, we've got this evidence of what you did. So you either go out there and do this, or we're going to release the evidence and you'll be financially and reputationally ruined for life. So this is a big deal, this Diddy stuff. Really looking forward to that coming out. By the way, if y'all didn't catch it, there were multiple different senators and government personnel in multiple different interviews today saying things like, RFK is absolutely going to be committed. He's going to be, appointed, pardon me. Same goes for Tulsi Gabbard. Same goes for Hegsworth, pardon me. And a lot of people are saying what happened. Well, we covered that last week. So Elon was in DC last week. That's where he got the figure that 94% of our federal employees don't go to the office. They work from home. Only 6% go to the office. And if I had to guess, he's probably going to cut 80% of them. It's going to be a bloodbath, a much overdue bloodbath. But he was also in a number of meetings with these rhinos. And the rumor is that he went to each of them, including John Cornyn, and said, here's the deal. You either confirm Trump's nominees, or I am going to give your opposition $100 million to run against you when you're up for renewal in your election. Now, all of a sudden, we've got them falling in line. It's disgusting what these rhinos have done. So, speaking of disgusting, so if y'all didn't catch it over the weekend, Biden's Health and Human Services Department celebrates pansexual and pan-romantic Pride Day. And when I read this, I'm like, what the is that? Like, what the hell is that supposed to mean? So as I'm reading this, and again, the article to this, or the link to this article is in the brief. Just go to our Patreon. You can download it for free. So as I'm going through this, I'm thinking to myself, how many days, months do we have dedicated to the alphabet people here on an annual basis? Because we sure as hell don't do it enough for our veterans. And so I went to this page here for GLAD. I can't remember what the acronym stands for, something about being gay. Either way, I have nothing against gay people. I don't really care. I have, a bone to pick with transgenderism because it's a mental illness and being forced on us. I have an issue with kids being targeted by all of this malarkey, but I don't really give a crap about gay people. So check this out. LGBTQ community calendar. So in February, you've got 1 day plus 1 week plus another day. In March, you've got 1 day, another week, another day, another day, another day. In April, same story. I won't go through the whole calendar. These are annual days of recognition for alphabet people. I'm going to look in the chat here really quickly. Can anybody guess just how many days are set aside on an annual basis for the alphabet people? And here's the deal. The first person who comes the closest will get a free 12-month paid membership on our Patreon, Survival Dispatch Patreon. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to play a quick message from CCW Safe, which, by the way, we have the president of CCW Safe coming on Wednesday's episode. And then we've got Travis from Sawyer Products coming on Thursday. But let me just play this next CCW Safe one here. Necessity, true. necessity truly is the mother of all invention. And there's so many successes like yours where the product didn't exist, the company didn't exist, and you had to invent it yourself to fill that void.
What we provided, even at the time when we started CCW Safe, it was really better than what most officers were getting through their unions or departments. And you mentioned earlier about competitors. I fully believe that whatever, all of our competitors are going to do exactly what they say they're going to do. It's just we do it a little different. We're not an insurance company or a critical response team. We're really the only one in the industry that has a dedicated critical response team like we have. And, that first 48 hours is so important to lock down. So we just do things differently.
All right. So, and by the way, CCW Safe, there's a whole bunch of reasons why it's the only self-defense coverage that we recommend. And we'll cover that in depth on Wednesday. So we won't harp on about it tonight. But let me see here some of the answers here. So I've made come to a conclusion in my head, by the way, that before I looked at all of these, I'm probably going to give away more than just one membership. So if I call your name, send an email to support@survivaldispatch.com, give me your name, and I will make sure that you get an invite for a free paid 12-month subscription on our Patreon. So Patreon, we got two levels, right? You got free gets the briefs and about 50% of the content. Paid gets the other 50%, so a full 100%. Plus paid memberships, $9.99 a month, get you access to our Signal encrypted chat, which is crazy active. And the intel that's shared in there is unreal. So the answer is 173 days. And we're going to kind of do this like Price is Right. So let me see here. Actually, we're not going to do it like Price is Right. I don't care if you went over a little bit. So professional JLR. Please send an email to support@survivaldispatch.com. Just put Patreon in the subject line. Make sure that your name is in the body of the email. And Professor, JLR. And I will make sure you get a membership. Let's see here. Scott, just straight up Scott, said 160 events. Same thing, support@survivaldispatch.com. And make sure you put Patreon in the subject line and your name in the body. Point Blank, a little bit further off the mark at 134, but that's okay. Do the same thing. Send me an email, support@survivaldispatch.com. Patreon for the subject line, your full name. After that, what will happen is you all will end up getting a link from Patreon to activate, and you'll have full access to everything. When that is done, by the way, once you have full access, send me another message with your phone number after you've downloaded and installed the Signal app on your phone, and I'll get you an invite to join the private Signal group as well. And I don't see anybody else that's really, Truth Recon, 158, good guess. Go ahead, support@survivaldispatch.com. Patreon for the subject line, full name in the body of it. Pretty good. Lori Hyman, do it as well, because you're kind of in the same range as one of the other ones I just called out. And that's good for tonight. Like doing competitions like that to reward our very, very loyal followers. So we're going to get started on chapter 3, the final chapter. And man, you don't even have to tell me, like, this headline could exclude the word Florida, and I would know it was Florida just based on the nature of this. So this guy is a homeless teacher. So during the school year, he teaches, then apparently he hangs out at a Starbucks and sleeps wherever he can. So since school was out this week or last week, he broke into a school with a bunch of sex toys and other stuff. And the alarm went off because he broke it in. He was buck naked in the classroom, no students. Cop came in. He tried to run past the cop, punched the cop as he was going by him, and then was restrained and arrested. But this shit only happens here in Florida. It's absolute craziness. So moving on to the next one here. This is Elon Musk's little man. If memory serves me right, he's got 12 kids. Speaking of people with a lot of kids, Craig Weir from Stay Brewed Coffee, staybrewed.com, family-owned business, best coffee that you can get. And I kid you not, his coffee is amazing. Small family-owned business. If you want to support somebody and you're a coffee fiend like myself, go to staybrewed.com and sign up for a subscription. You can buy individual bags, but sign up for a subscription. They're good people. I get a note every time I get an order from Stay Brewed. There's like a drawing, cartoon drawing, or, children's drawing from one of his daughters. Memory serves me right, he's got 6 daughters, and they always send very personal messages, and it's really, really cool. So anyway, Elon Musk's young man.
What should I do?
Save America.
And?
Help Trump.
Okay.
Now, if that doesn't make you laugh, I don't know what would. Now, this next one here is, I think this is a trick question, okay? And the question is, which woman is transgender? And I'm warning you right now, you cannot unsee this. All right, so that's enough of that. I hope you all have a good health insurance so that you can get, some treatment or therapy for having to watch that. Moving on to the next one here. We're into the memes now. So psychological warfare is being waged upon us, but most people have no idea they are even on the battlefield. And boy, howdy, that's a mouthful right there. And moving on to the next one. When Love Thy Neighbor was written, your neighbors were likely extended family members or people your family has known for generations, not some random Africans or Indians that got airdropped into Ohio last week. So that made me laugh. I thought it was kind of comical. Oh, and I love this one. So Donald Trump's pronouns are my president, your president, his president, her president, their president, our president, everyone's president. God bless Donald Trump. And moving on to the next meme. Study finds that an opposing viewpoint causes no real harm. This needs to go to all of the, the tenderfoots, especially the ones who are being indoctrinated in colleges and universities to, require safe spaces and therapy in case somebody has a different opinion than them. And boy, howdy, if this meme isn't appropriate for this Christmas season, I don't know what is. What kind of American are you? Merry Christmas or Happy Holidays? Personally, I always wish people a Merry Christmas, and I especially wish them a Merry Christmas if I get the sense that they're woke and that it'll offend them by saying that. Done it many times. Oh, and by the way, Joe Biden shared the process of how Bidenomics work, right? So you pay taxes, he sends it to the Ukraine, they send it back to Hunter, Hunter gives it back to Joe, then he pardons Hunter. That's it. That's how Bidenomics works. True story. All right, this one's pretty comical. So this person writes, my beautiful country is finally free. Syria is free. No more fear. This guy responds, really happy for you. When are you moving back there? That's some funny shit. And as promised, the eyes. It's always the eyes. All of these crazy people have got the Charlie Manson eyes in spades. I mean, it's super consistent. I don't know if it's the devil that's possessed them or what it is, but man, you can see it a mile away when you see the eyes. So that's the end of chapter 3. So for those of you who are new to Survival Dispatch News, when we started this a couple years ago, episode 334, by the way, tonight, I was pretty adamant that we do more than the average podcast. And what that means is that you can watch some really good podcasts hosted by some very smart people, and they're discussing something that's at the top of the news cycle, and then they editorialize something that's at the top of the news cycle. And then if you go read the comments, you'll see lots of disenfranchised people who say, well, my vote doesn't matter. Nothing I do matters. Nothing I do is going to change anything. And I disagree with that. So I was pretty adamant that we would assign homework at the end of each episode. And you'd laugh if you saw the emails that I get, which are just awesome. Like we challenged our audience to take the citizenship test, the American citizenship test. It's all civics related stuff. And there was some study that we mentioned. I can't remember what the numbers were, but it was an astonishingly low number of Americans that could pass this 100-question test. And I, pretty confidently stated that our audience has above average intelligence. And sure enough, my inbox was flooded with screenshots and emails saying I got 99 out of 100. I got 97 out of 100. Had somebody say, man, it was brutal. I got 60 out of 100 the first time. So I studied for a day, went and took it again and got 99. We definitely have an above average audience who's willing to get involved and who's intelligent. So for tonight's homework, what can our audience do in light of everything we've discussed on this episode? Well, number one, when you're in public, camera down or phone down, I should say, eyes up, get a set of balls and stand up for the weak amongst us like Daniel Penny did. You can't stand idly by running your camera and allowing these things to happen. Now, if there's a disparity of force, you're an itty bitty person and they're a bigger person, get somebody to help, somebody who's bigger. Don't just stand there and shoot it with your video. And I know y'all are good people out there. So I apologize if that sounds like an order given on my part. It's not. I know y'all do the right thing. Number two, improve your self-defense skills, whether it be lethal, non-lethal, hand-to-hand, even online training. Tony Blauer's Human Weapons System online training is awesome. I think I'm just going back in my mind, I think there's a discount code that's SD50, but if you go to sign up and you want to get the 50% off and that code doesn't work, send me an email, support@survivaldispatch.com, and I'll go look it up. But it's a really big discount on Tony's online training. So it's not martial arts or anything like that. It teaches you what to do in different situations. It's 10 chapters. It's 10 hours. Some chapters are short, some chapters are longer, but you can get through it in a day or two, no problem. And like an afternoon, you could get through it. And I guarantee you will be safer after going through it. It's phenomenal stuff. Tony covers his D1, D2, D3. So what that means, D1 is, again, phone down, eyes up, paying attention. You spot a bad situation before you get to that bad situation. Distance is safety. And you go the opposite direction. You choose safety. So that's the best way to avoid these types of confrontations. Number two, you devalue yourself as a target. The bad guys want one of three things: life, property, or possessions. That's it. And so at the end of the day, the best example I can give, I've given it before, it's a good one, by the way, is this lady leaves her office. I'll tell it as fast as I can. She leaves her office. She's on a conference call. The sun's gone down. She's on the interstate. Dashboard's going off. She's out of fuel. She pulls off the interstate, pulls into a gas station, still on the conference call, gets out of her car, notices that she's in the hood. 3 bad guys have taken an interest in her. They're moving towards her quickly. She starts cussing in her phone. Turn my dang credit card back on. I paid it in full last week. My car's got no fuel. I've got no cash. And now my dang credit card doesn't work. And the 3 guys walked away because she devalued herself. The last one would be to defend yourself. And a good example that I've given before is Tony lives in LA, gets rear-ended, pushes his car into the guy in front. 3 guys get out of the car in front of him. The driver looks at his bumper, looks at Tony and says, "I'm going to kick your ass." And as the guy gets closer to Tony, Tony's like, whoa, time out. There's 3 reasons I can't fight you. He interrupted the guy's OODA loop, observe, orient, decide, and act. And the guy stopped to listen to what Tony had to say. Tony sucker punched him and knocked him out cold. The other 2 guys got in the car. So D1, D2, D3, Human Weapons System. It's amazing online knowledge. It's not martial arts training at all. It's up here. And number 3, make sure the truth is spread far and wide, and don't let BLM turn Jordan Neely into another George Floyd. And usually I've got some compadres on or a guest. We just had some scheduling issues tonight for some people, so we'll have part of the regular crew will be back tomorrow night. quick reminder, go to patreon.com/survivaldispatch, free membership, so you can get all of our briefs with all of our links. It's a curated daily newspaper. If you sign up as a paying member, $9.99, send me an email, support@survivaldispatch.com, with your phone number after you've installed Signal, and I will get you hooked up on that. So to wrap up our episode, as per usual, we have a question from the conspiracy deck from Conflicted the Game. So Project Blue Book was one of a series of systemic studies of unidentified flying objects conducted by the United States Air Force. It started in 1952, collecting more than 12,618 UFO reports, and it ended in December 1969 with the conclusion that 95% of reports were explainable, while 5% were not. But these were apparently not taken as a serious threat. Kind of interesting that we've got drones flying all over Jersey and New York right now. And you got the governor of New Jersey saying that poses no threat. We don't have any clue what it is, but it poses no threat. Yeah, okay. So the conflicted question based on all of that is, do you think there is a government cover-up regarding alien activity on Earth? So here's what I'll say to that. My wife and I have kind of had this ongoing, inside joke for years, asking the rhetorical question, does life imitate art, or does art imitate life? Because if you look at the crap that Hollywood pumps out, again, we're back to the other side's not afraid to tell you what their plans are and what they're going to do. There were all kinds of movies published leading up to the COVID pandemic, and it's amazing how accurate they portrayed what things were going to be, and this was ahead of time. We have seen so much information regarding UFOs in the past couple of years. My inclination is that there's going to be something revealed at some point in the relatively near future, because it just seems like that's the way the other side set things up. On top of which, speaking of 1969, I was born in 1969. And when I grew up and went through elementary, middle, and high school, we had never detected another planet anywhere in the universe. So we detected stars, but we'd never detected any planets. So there were lots of people at the time who would say, well, there aren't even any planets out there. So there's no way that there's any other intelligent life forms out there, blah, blah, blah. Of course, with the Hubble telescope and other technologies that have been released, we've now indexed a gazillion planets out there. And I think it would be kind of foolish to believe that we're the only, intelligent, sentient beings. And if you want to go one step further than that, even if it's just single cell organisms or something like that, I think it'd be highly unlikely for us to assume that doesn't exist out there. So anyway, my answer is yes. And I have a feeling we're going to be doing some episodes of Survival Dispatch News at some point in the near future on that particular topic. And again, tomorrow night, top 10 ways to destroy America. We're going to go through all 10. We're going to tell you what Obama did to execute on each of them. And it seems like simple stuff when you read it, but boy, howdy, the bad guys have done one heck of a job undermining our culture and our values here. And we've got this one chance to turn things around. We won the battle November 5th, and now we got to win the war. And I would predict we have to win it over the next 2 years. I don't know that we'll even have 4 years, but hopefully we have 4 years, but at the very least 2 years to save the country. And I think that's part of what's driving Donald Trump to say, we're going to do this, super, super fast, faster than Milei did in Argentina. But that's it for those of you who won. Make sure you email me, support@survivaldispatch.com, so I can get you your free Patreon membership. Please like, share, comment, and subscribe. God bless America. My name is Chris Heaven, and I'm the CEO of Survival Dispatch. I was a member of our national powerlifting team for many years and won many state, national, and world championships. Even though I'm in great shape for being 55 years old, I am not immune to father time. Most of us feel weaker and make more trips to the bathroom as we get older. U.S. Army research has led to a breakthrough for the #1 water for older Americans. It's not a special sports drink, but a mix with essential nutrients most hydration drinks lack. Keyword, hydration. These nutrients are proven to enhance muscle strength, reduce soreness, and improve bladder health. A Texas doctor leveraged this research and formulated a drink mix to help you stay strong. Click the link below for up to 44% off at nativehydrate.com/dispatch, plus free shipping and a free gift. This is one of the best deals I've seen for high quality BCAA drink mixes. Don't miss this deal.